Hey chat, new patch dropped today for Deadlock. I'm going to go through some of the things that I think are important to discuss and talk about, and I'll give you some insight from the competitive player perspective. I've been playing competitive for about a year now in Deadlock. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and comment what you think about the patch. Do you agree, disagree, all that good jazz, but let's get right into the video. The first change that I want to talk about, now it's a little hard to gauge the implications and effects of this change, but it's the CC reduction change in Deadlock. Now this is like a game-changing mechanic. This isn't like a buff or a nerf, this is like a system addition, an addition to the system. Basically, what it is it prevents chain CC. So something like maybe Abrams charge and the doorman cart into Mo Krill combo, right? If you don't do those three things consecutively to an enemy, before there was no reduction on the CC, it would last for the full duration. Now, when you do it, there is a slight reduction based on how many immobilizations are occurring within the past 7 seconds. So it's really hard to say, oh, because this is happening, now XYZ is gonna happen. I think essentially the game will just feel better to play, in my opinion, from this change. I think it's like a slight nerf to CC characters, but it really isn't at the end of the day, because this is under the condition that you have multiple CC characters. So I don't really know what's gonna happen from this change occurring, but I think it's just important to think about and consider moving forward with future patches in the future of Deadlock. I think this is, though, like a nice quality of life change for Deadlock. I think it will definitely make the game much more enjoyable to play, all the way from like Initiate to Eternus 6 or Pro Play, right? Next thing I want to talk about that we can actually talk more in depth about and just not highlight is the mid-boss change. So mid-boss got buffed in health. Mid-boss damage resistance got reduced. So it's like a cancel out effect. I don't really get the point of this. Now, mid-boss rejuve HP bonus got reduced by 5%. That is the buff that you get for mid-boss. So you have 5% less health when you have the mid-boss buff as a team. And the second mid-boss rejuve credits got reduced from 4 to 3. So this change is really important in the context of competitive, because what used to happen was you used to get mid-boss and the game's over. Now, I think when Night Shift occurs this coming Wednesday, I think we'll still see the same trend with mid-boss. I think the team that gets mid-boss first will be, like, probability-wise, the team that most likely win by a large margin. But in the case that, you know, there's a second mid-boss being taken, what it used to be before, you know, given the changes, you used to have 4 rejuve crystals. Now, 4 rejuve crystals, when the enemy had it, that was actually GG. When you got second mid-boss, the game was over, right? But now, the game can go up to a potential third mid-boss pretty easily, right, if the team throws 2 rejuves in a row. So this will extend game duration a little bit on average, probably not by much at all, but it's going to be interesting to see, you know, just how the second rejuve will, you know, play out now, because it used to just be a GG condition in like pro play. Now in like Initiate or Arcanist or whatever, right, I'm sure people have gotten like 3 to 4 rejuves, right? But in comp, it really never goes beyond the second, in my opinion, unless it's just like a messy game. So there's a change I forgot to go over, and it involves parrying and rebuttal. So if you notice on the screen right now, parrying, you can do it while dashing now, pretty easily, air dashing. And rebuttal got a pretty big buff, I would say. The melee resist on rebuttal makes it such a viable purchase into melee heavy comps like Billy. And it's also a nice item to have just to parry easier, because it reduces your parry cooldown. So I honestly think characters that are melee focused got quite a significant nerf this patch. Now obviously I'll have to see how things turn out over the next few days, but I definitely do think this is something that you want to stay aware of. Now there's a few hero changes that I want to go through. There's a lot. I mean, it looks like there's basically one for every single hero in the game, but I'm gonna go through the ones that I think that are most important. We'll start with Ivy. So it looks like Valve was not satisfied at all with Gun Ivy. They didn't really enjoy it being as dominant as it is. So they nerfed her bullet growth scaling from 0.15 to 0.11. Now this doesn't solve, in my opinion, a fundamental issue with Ivy. Fundamental issue with Ivy, and I don't know if the developers even think this is an issue. They just might be chill with it. But I think Gun Ivy will always be prevalent just because of her high fire rate. Characters like Wraith or Infernus, right, Haze, you have to build fire rate on because you shoot very slow to start off. Ivy, on the other hand, you shoot very quick, like off the rip. Your gun shoots very fast. So it makes items like Siphon Bullets, Capacitor, Toxic Bullets. Actually, no, not Toxic Bullets, because Toxic Bullets is probably scaled with the fire rate of the character. But basically, Toxic Bullets, Capacitor, and Siphon Bullets, those items were really core to Gun Ivy. I think those items made her good, right? All the other weapon damage, like the Hollow Point, you know, the Veil Walker, if you built that, the Fortitude, the Battle Vest, like, yeah, those made her tankier and gave her damage or whatever, right? But I think the core items that made Gun Ivy good were the Capacitor and the Siphon Bullets. This doesn't really address that issue. Maybe they nerfed Siphon Bullets in the patch notes, but I'm not really seeing any kind of nerf to Siphon Bullets or Capacitor. Now, there was a little nerf on Capacitor and Tesla Bullets, but that was more of a bug fix. That doesn't really affect Ivy. So I still think Gun Ivy is really good. I just think people are going to stop building her for a little bit because they think it's shit, given the bullet damage growth reduction, which they are valid to believe. It is a significant nerf to Gun Ivy, but the core of the character will still be very good. Another significant change to a hero that affects comp quite a bit is MINA. So specifically the one I want to focus on is a nerf to her ult to objectives. Usually what you did in comp is you picked MINA quite early to threaten quick objective takes, like MIDBOSS, for example, at 16 to 18 minutes. You will probably see a lot of comps in NA and EU where when they have a MINA, they look for those early mid-bosses. Now, I know in ABL's build, he maxes bats early, but at least in NA, we max ult very early, specifically for that reason, to do an early mid-boss. So I think this really does kill a lot of the value that the character provided in comp, but I don't think she'll necessarily never be picked again. I think she's still probably pretty good for the fact that she has a silence in her kit and she has a lot of damage and a lot of mobility with her bats. But this is definitely something to keep your eyes, you know, peeled for in comp, seeing where pros put MINA ats in the pick and ban order and whatnot. It'll definitely go down, in my opinion. Maybe it'll go up. Maybe I don't know anything, but I think the value of MINA definitely was rooted a lot in her damage to objectives with their ult, which is now nerfed. In addition to MINA, this might be a little time skip, but I think we're about to go into items. But if it is a time skip, then we'll go back into heroes after. If it isn't, then we'll stick with the items. But Spirit Burn was also nerfed a little bit. So it says Spirit Burn now it goes on cooldown for half the normal time when used on non-heroes rather than 0 cooldown. So Spirit Burn didn't have a cooldown, if you probably noticed on Mina's doing mid-boss and all that, when you used it on like a walker or a mid-boss or whatever, right? So I think this kills a little bit of the Spirit Burn value. I think this is kind of why people went Spirit Burn specifically on heroes like Mina. Now, it's not the only reason. I think Spirit Burn does provide a lot of value in the context of, you know, what do you call it? The anti-heal it provides, the AoE anti-heal. It's very valuable. It's like 80% anti-heal. There's nothing like it in the game. It's definitely going to be prioed a little less. It's a decently significant nerf, and it's something you want to keep your eyes peeled for in comp, looking at who's building Spirit Burn. You'll probably see it still into Kelvin's, you know, Victor's maybe, Abrams, Billy, the Chungus characters, right? Shiv. You'll probably still see that Spirit Burn buy to those characters, but whether it happens more or less, we'll have to find out in the next night shift. So people were on a little bit of a cultist sacrifice kind of kick as of recently in Deadlock. A lot of EU pros were building it at first, and then NA, I think, caught on to it, or maybe NA was doing it first, but at least from what I understand, EU is doing it a little first and NA caught on. So they nerfed cultist sacrifice, like, throughout the whole entire item. So the fire rate got reduced when you have the buff. The fire rate boon scaling got reduced. The health got reduced. And the health boon scaling got reduced. In addition, the cooldown got increased. So this is like on all levels an extreme nerf to Cult of Sacrifice. Now, will this item never be built again on any hero? I don't think so. I think the item still is valuable because the economy wasn't changed about it. I mean, no matter what you do the Cult of Sacrifice, you're still generating souls with the item. And there's not a lot of items in this game that do that. The only other item is like Trophy Collector that generates souls. So I think it will be built definitely less, if at all. I don't think it's going to probably be built at all for like a hot minute, but people will come back to the item eventually because of the value it provides through economy. I think that characters that need to scale and farm early, maybe like Wraith and Furnace, will still build this item in the early games of Deadlock, but it probably won't be built on every hero like it was before. Now, there's a general trend I kind of want to identify with you guys when it comes to items. A lot of people built certain items in the laning phase in order to win. Headshot booster, flat damage. Mystic shot, flat damage. Backstabber, flat damage, right? You even had items like Mystic burst, flat damage. Cold front, flat damage. QSR, flat damage. All of these items got nerfed pretty significantly. Now, it's not like any of the items are dead by any means, but they definitely want the laning phase to be a little harder to end because they're nerfing the items in which players build to win the laning phase. Mystic shot, right, had its damage reduced as far as I'm aware by 5. QSR, 11 damage reduction. Cold front, 5 damage reduction. Cooldown increase, right? It's not that much of a nerf when you look at all these items, but that's kind of how Yoshi or Ice Frog operates. He does small little nerfs on each and every single thing when it comes to the Deadlock. Or Dota, whatever you want to think of it as. So this is something to keep your eyes on when it comes to future changes. How these items that pros build to win the laning phase, like Headshot Booster, Mystic Shot, Cold Front, evolve as time goes on. Maybe they'll get nerfed more, maybe they'll get nerfed less, but this is definitely with regard of nerfing early game power in general across Deadlock. It's not that big of a nerf, but it's like the small step to begin maybe, you know, a trend in the future. So yeah, guys, that's all I really got for you today. Now, there's a lot of other amazing changes in the patch. It's just these are the ones that I want to go over that I think are the most important. I'm sure I probably missed one or two that are extremely important, but I think these are the ones that you guys want to take home today and kind of just think about, you know, when you're watching Deadlock Night Shift next week. So hope you guys have a good rest of your day. This is the second channel, so it's a little casual in the context of, you know, videos and how they're made and whatnot, but make sure you guys subscribe if you want to see more, and go check out the main channel if you have no idea who I even am. So anyways, guys, have a good rest of your day, and I will see you all later. Peace out, chat.